Hi, my name is Angelo Lopez. I'm a cartoonist and an illustrator based in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I have the great honor to be speaking to two other wonderful children's book writers who are also in the San Francisco Bay Area, Cynthia Chin-Lee and Lea Lyon.
Lion.
Lion, okay. I don't know why I keep saying that. Lee's also a wonderful illustrator. And Cynthia and Lea also worked on a wonderful children's book called Operation Marriage, which they'll be talking about later and stuff. So today we'll be talking about their careers in the children's book field. And thank you both for taking time from the Super Bowl. So to talk to me today. Yeah, okay. So let me ask my first question to you both. How did you both become interested in creating children's books? And who are your children's book writers and illustrators who've been heroes and heroines to you both? Oh,
Who should
Whoever
start?
wants to go first.
yeah.
What?
You want to go first, Lee?
I can go first. Okay. I wanted to be a children's book illustrator when I grew up.
Oh,
And I can't quite remember how that came about, but I was painting. I was, painting in oils at that time. Anyway, and then I became an adult and did all kinds of other things and forgot about that.
oh,
And decades later, I saw a class listed at UC Extension called Illustrating Children's Books.
oh.
And I was very excited and I took it and I got hooked. And and the rest is now I am one.
No. Yeah. That's very inspiring.
Oh, yeah, and I'm proof that it's never too late.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was in my 50s when I started this.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay. So cool. How about you, Cynthia?
And I started getting more interested in children's books after I had my first child, Vanessa.
Uh-huh.
And my first kids book came out when she was about 5. And I think the interest was very strong because I was reading her books every night. And after you do that, you get, oh, wow, what a wonderful world that I'm sharing with my child. And I really wanted to share books with her that also reflected our own heritage. And there weren't that many books.
Yeah.
No. So my first book is Almond Cookies and Dragon Ball Tea, which really is set in my own childhood, with lots of elements of the Chinese culture, and it's based off a story from my own childhood.
that's
Oh,
great.
okay. Oh, that's cool. Did you have any heroes and heroines or any particular
Oh,
writers or illustrators that influenced you or
I
Well,
have,
I was
oh, go
thinking
ahead.
about the ones that I like now.
Yeah,
So,
me too.
of course, I love Lea Lyon.
Oh, and I love Cynthia Chin-Lee and Angelo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um, the two that come to mind, I have so many, but the two that come to mind are E.B. Lewis as an
oh,
illustrator,
yeah.
and lately Steve Schenken. I don't know if you're familiar with it. He writes
Oh,
YA nonfiction history books that read like they're like movies. They're so exciting. It's for middle school mainly.
yeah.
And I just think he's terrific. He's won a couple, Newbery honors and stuff. And
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Oh, that's
yeah,
cool. Yeah,
yeah.
I worked in I worked in the children's department in the library in the 90s. So I
Mhm.
have my fair share
No.
of stuff.
Oh yes, of heroes, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
So
okay.
I wanted to mention the ones that came to my mind. One for nonfiction is my friend who was formerly in my writers group. That's Christy Hale.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
She has some wonderful nonfiction like Copycat, Building Up, All Equal, which is also very much a equality book. And then one that I like recently is Joanna Ho. I've never met her, but
Oh,
her book Eyes That Kiss in the Corners.
I just gave that back to the library.
Yeah, I love that book. Yeah, so and Say My Name. So one day I'm going to meet her because she's in the Bay Area. So I hope that I will meet her sometime.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Do you guys go to a lot of SCBWI conferences? Or I know I met you, Lee, at a children
Yeah.
illustrators conference and stuff. Do either of you go to that? Is that where you meet authors, I guess, or
I've been going for a long time, for 20 years.
I went a lot, but I think after COVID, I stopped going to a lot of conferences. I did go to the SCBWI winter conference by Zoom a couple of years ago, but I
Yeah.
haven't been going to a lot of gatherings.
oh,
No,
okay.
I haven't either, but the on they've been online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I sort of exacted, well, I was the illustrator coordinator for the
Yeah,
San Francisco
Illustrators Day.
South region. So I got to go to one big conference for free every year.
Oh,
I had to
nice.
pay for airfare and hotel, but yeah. So I really got involved in
Yeah.
SCWI and
And maybe we should explain what SCBWI is for
Oh,
anyone
yeah,
who's
yeah, yeah.
viewing
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah, yeah.
know.
oh, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators.
Yeah.
And it's a worldwide organization and workshops and conferences and wonderful community
Yeah.
Hmm.
of people. And it's just taught me everything I know about
Yeah. And you
illustrating. I mean, I know how to paint, but illustrating's different.
yeah, yeah.
And I
Developing
also think networking is really important
Oh, yes.
for any profession, but especially for book publishing, writing and illustrating.
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, both of you have done books that showcase the diversity of our country. Why is it important for both of you, for younger readers, to learn about America's diversity?
Why don't you start?
Well, since I grew up as a minority's minority in Washington, D.C. in the 60s, I will say that it's very lonely when you don't see yourself reflected in books.
Yeah.
We need to have books be both a mirror and a window to new places. And I felt really strongly that if I could create books that reflect my heritage, that would be a contribution I'd be making.
And I think that so many, if not most, young readers live in non-diverse places. And what Cynthia said about the window and the mirror, it's a mirror for kids to see themselves in books that don't usually or haven't. And it's a window for kids to see other people
Yeah.
and get I have such a prejudice against red states. I figure they don't get this anywhere else.
Oh,
And so it's wonderful to get it in children's books that have a story and you meet the people and it's not just. So I think it's very, very important.
yeah. And I
I
guess,
think even a blue state, because I grew up in blue Washington, D.C.,
That's
it was
true.
lonely for me
Of course.
because kids see the injustice in the world.
yeah.
They see it and they want to have some way to deal with what's fair, what's right. And if they can see something in books where there's some progress could be made, then it gives them hope.
Absolutely.
Yeah. During the so you grew up in the 60s and the 70s, right? So
Mhm.
that was a tumultuous time. I mean,
It was
I guess the people,
rioting, Martin
yeah,
Luther King's assassination.
then
Yeah.
Bobbies and stuff, right? And
Hmm.
stuff. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm assuming you've had did children's books in some ways help you understand what was going, all the tumult? Would it have been nice to have children's books explain some of that for you?
Yes, it would have
Okay.
been, but I don't think there were any that
Oh,
were,
okay, okay, yeah.
yeah.
I
But
was gonna
that,
ask if it helped you, but then I realized I don't know if children's books were as diverse back then or not and
yeah.
stuff. So,
So,
okay. Yeah, okay, yeah. Um, I'm curious. We're talking about both of you. You both collaborated on a book, Operation Marriage. Could you tell me about the book and what was it like collaborating on this project?
it was a
Cynthia,
wonderful experience.
it really was. Tell them about the book first.
Sure. The book is based on a family I know in Palo Alto from my church.
Yeah,
And they were a gay couple, lesbian couple, and they had two children. And in 2008, there was a California ballot proposition that was going to make gay marriage illegal. And the kids said to them, please, we want our family to be recognized. And there was a lot of pressure in the community. And so they try to think of ways to encourage and nudge their moms to do that. And
yeah,
so the moms told me about it. And I said, oh, that is so precious that
Really.
the kids, were the ones that kids see the injustice in their community. They see the prejudice.
yeah,
And I said, could I write a book about it? And they said, yeah, sure. And then Derek and Craig of Reach and Teach Store and Publishing, I sent it to them and they said that they would publish it. And they knew Lee too. And
Oh,
they
okay.
They
selected
are
Lee. So
wonderful. They are so wonderful.
Yeah. How did they know you?
Me,
Yeah, yeah.
from her
you
previous
know,
books.
I one of my books was I ran into them at a conference at USF
Oh,
one evening, and I sat down next to the one person in the room that looked familiar,
uh,
and these two men sitting next to her said, "Oh, you're Lea Lyon," and I said,
yeah.
"Yes."
You're
Oh, we
famous.
love
Yeah.
your books, and the I forgot which book it was now. Playing
I
War.
think it was Playing More.
I was just saying, it's probably
Yeah.
Playing War was the first one they bought for their online thing they had before the store.
Yeah.
They're just wonderful. We've been close ever since.
Oh, cool. Cynthia, was this book sort of an ode to your friendship with them as a as a means of support to memorialize this particular moment in their lives? Or
Well, I was just moved and I thought if people could read the story and see how children are also affected by the prejudices against LGBTQ
yeah.
people, maybe it would change some hearts or open some minds. Yeah. And I was so lucky that Derek and Craig also saw the value in that
Yeah,
and they wanted
I
to do
did
the
too.
project.
Yeah.
I did too. It's just
I'm curious.
wonderful.
Have you gotten a lot of responses for that and stuff? Do people just come out of the blue and just say thank you for doing that book?
Well, it's been a long time.
Oh, okay.
Well, the book did
Um,
win the Compassion Award from an
oh,
organization, Moonbeam or something.
yeah,
The
something like that.
Moonbeam Cat. So it did win an award, and I think that that organization even created a category because they wanted Operation Marriage to get. That was the first year they had the category of compassion. So I,
Interesting. That's wonderful. I didn't remember that, but that's
yeah,
fabulous.
so it did win an award, and I think people are appreciative. And then it was made into a short video, which got sent to the Academy Awards.
Oh, wow.
Quentin Lee, who's also known by his moniker Gay Hollywood Dad. He's a filmmaker in Los Angeles. He is a gay Hollywood dad. This was before he had his son. And a friend of mine showed it to him and he loved the book. And so it's also a little film that he made. He submitted to the Academy Awards. It did not make any award, but
Oh,
it's on YouTube and we
oh, okay.
crowdsourced it. We crowdsourced the movie. The book was also crowdsourced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, you can search YouTube for Operation Marriage and you'll find it. And it was fun to participate in the movie making too. Yeah,
Would
I
you,
have one screenwriting credit now.
oh, yeah.
Yes.
If it
That's
did get
wonderful.
nominated for an Oscar, would you both have gone to the red carpet, I guess, or?
Oh, I mean,
Yes.
we
Yeah.
probably get into the ceremony, but yeah.
Oh, that would be cool. That would have been cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What was the collaboration process like when you both did the book? I'm curious.
Interesting. Let me say one thing. Usually there isn't a collaboration between
Mhm.
the author and the illustrator.
Yeah. Okay.
The author signs a contract to have the book published, and they have to sort of let go of the image in their mind of what the book would look like because the editor is going to find an illustrator, and you don't even meet. I haven't met the other authors. A
Oh,
couple of them I did after the fact, but
yeah.
so it's not really a collaboration, but in this case it was
Oh, okay.
because I was using her friends for models and people
Oh.
from your church, and um, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, it is unusual. And Angelo, this book does have really strong ties to First Presbyterian Church Palo Alto. The
Yes.
oh,
story is
okay.
based on Lee and Kathy Merkel Raymond. Craig and Derek are members of the church. I'm a member of the church. And then Lee had such an open mind, so gracious. She said she wanted to come see the church.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and members of the church were models for the characters in the book.
Yeah.
Did you get to art direct that a little bit? Like, I like these people to pose in this way, or in terms of collaboration, Cynthia, did you help Lee with that, or was that all just
Well,
allowing
I,
Lee?
I put out an email to the church and said, anyone interested in doing this?
Uh-huh. Okay.
But you didn't suggest how the images should look.
No, not at all.
No.
Okay. Okay.
And also, Lee, the book was very helpful to Quentin Lee when he was doing the movie. He says, "Oh, it's all set up. The
Oh,
the
wonderful.
illustrations
Oh
in the
yeah, yeah,
book
yeah.
are his
So it was almost like Lee storyboarded the book.
Yes,
storyboarded." Yeah, those are the
Yeah.
words.
exactly.
Okay. Okay.
So
Oh, that must
I
have been fun.
almost have a screenwriting credit too.
Yes.
Get all your credit you can get. So,
Yes, indeed. Now, I just remember it as such a delightful experience. One
oh,
afternoon, we were at Cynthia's house, lots of food, and all these kids. And the two women were there too, I think. And
Well, the not
yeah,
the actual couple because
no,
they
no, but
were
the
yeah, the children.
actresses that you chose to.
Yes, yes, they came. Hmm.
And so I had done the thumbnails and I had the idea of what I wanted on each page. So
oh.
I made sure to get that sort of image. We sort of staged those, but I took pictures of the people all afternoon because I always mix and match. I mean, you might catch an expression when they're
Yeah.
not posing. Oh, that's perfect. And so I would combine things.
Oh, okay.
And
As an illustrator, I'm very fascinated with learning your process.
oh,
I
sure.
love your work, but you're the opposite of me. You're very loose. I'm very
Yeah,
tight.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, it's so funny because many watercolors who start, they try to get looser.
Yeah.
And when I started illustrating books, I tried to get tighter.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So,
But
yeah. So, Cynthia, when you were writing the book, was it important to get the it as close to the actual experience as possible, or were you given license to make stuff up, to embellish
I
a little?
made stuff up and I wanted it to be fiction.
Oh,
So
okay.
even though I did have, the elements of the true story, I wanted to have some freedom to add to the story through my own imagination.
Okay. Yeah, because it was only yeah. What amazed me about your it was only 4 years after Newsom opened up City Hall, right? And stuff for the same-sex marriage ceremonies and stuff. So
and it was going to be stopped.
yeah, I remember that time very well because I had several close gay and lesbian friends and stuff, and it was a roller coaster of hope and despair, if I remember correctly and stuff.
Yeah.
Moments of hope, and then oh no, the backlash comes and stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. I did a book in 1993, but it didn't sell. So, but I had mixed feelings of it's a book called Two Moms, a Zark and Me about gay parenting. It was but the only thing is I'm proud I did the book, but I wish I did it 10 years later because
Yes.
my artwork wasn't my art style, my art style wasn't fully formed back then. So I didn't think I did a good job with the illustration, but I was actually proud of having done the book, but gosh, when I'm always hesitant to tell people just because I don't want to judge my art.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yeah, but it was nice and stuff. The reason I'm asking if people came up to you is when I worked in the children's department, some people would come up to me and thank me for doing the Zark book and stuff. And I'm wondering if that was the same experience with you both. Did anybody ever come up and just say thank you or?
Well, we had a couple of book signings and, the launch, and people came to that and did say thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was at Kepler's.
Yeah. Because 2008, this is before Obergefell, this is before the shift in attitude. So what you guys
Yeah.
did was great and stuff.
Hmm.
Also, at the in San Francisco at the ALA conference convention, we were signing books.
Hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
So lots
yeah.
of people came up and thanked us then.
Well, the Sunnyvale Public Library has an electric version of the book and stuff where you can get it digital, I guess, and if you can check it
Hmm.
Oh,
out
an
right.
ebook?
Yeah, yeah, an
Mhm.
ebook and stuff. And I think Santa Clara has it too. You should. I tried looking for both of your books, but they were all checked out. So
Oh,
people are checking out and reading your books and stuff. So
oh, nice.
That's good.
yeah. So be glad about that. Both of
Yes.
your books are still being read a lot and stuff. So yeah,
All of my
it
books that
it was
I've
not
done
helpful for
yeah.
me because it kind of hindered my research in your books and stuff. But
Oh, of
it,
course.
I thought it would be nice for you guys to know that they're being checked out.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't even know if the Double V campaign is in the libraries down there.
Oh, I actually think it is. I think it's
I hope so. I
yeah,
can check
yeah, okay.
because to my horror, to my disappointment, um, they weren't in any of the local libraries here. It's a school and library publisher.
Oh, okay.
And they missed a bet because, Betty Reed Soskin is a big deal here. Do you
Yeah.
know who she is?
No,
No.
no.
Do you, Cynthia?
No.
Okay. Betty Reed Soskin retired from the Rosie the Riveter Museum here in Richmond.
Oh,
And she was a park ranger, a black park ranger. She retired when she was 100.
oh,
Wow.
And she's 103 now.
yeah,
But she's the one who gave me the idea for the book.
Oh,
Otherwise,
okay.
I didn't, yeah, I didn't know I didn't even know what it was.
yeah,
But she would get these wonderful talks 3 times a week at the museum, which is right near where I live.
yeah,
Um, and she's my idol. I mean, talk about idols.
yeah.
She is my hero.
Mm.
And so one day I asked, um, actually, I introduced myself, said I was a children's book author and illustrator, and that I thought there should be a picture book biography of her.
Yeah,
And I know one time I even showed her some examples of and I wasn't saying I should write it or
yeah,
illustrate it. She said, I'm not really interested. I realized later it was modesty.
yeah,
I'm not really interested and da da da. And so I was proud of myself. Instead of slinking away,
yeah.
I said, I understand. So if there were one children's book about the World War II period you just talked about, what would you like to see? And I
Oh,
really wanted to know because I
Mm.
value her opinion so highly. I've
Yeah.
got her up on this pedestal that she doesn't think she deserves. But anyway, so she immediately said the Double V campaign and that
Oh,
this young man, James G. Thompson, was an unsung hero
yeah,
because he wrote the letter to the editor that started this whole thing. And I had really never heard of it. So I went off sort of happily to look it up and
yeah,
with no intention of writing it. I mean, I've never written for that age group from
yeah,
middle school.
yeah,
Anyway, so but I got engrossed. I just really got engrossed in it. And um I
yeah.
discovered how much I love research.
Oh no, no, yeah. Since we're talking, I was going to ask this question later, but since you're getting in depth on it now and stuff, both of you have written books on historical figures.
Yes.
And for you, it's the Double V about the African Americans who fought in World War II, and
Yeah.
Cynthia, for you, it's the uh, you wrote Women and the Right to Vote about the women
yes.
suffragists.
Mm-hmm.
Just by listening to you, there's a love of history. Why, for both of you, is it important for younger readers to learn about these lesser known historical figures?
Well, first of all, I think the suffragists should not be lesser known. They should
No, they
be
shouldn't. Well, that's
they
why
should
I
be
wrote
top
it.
and front and center of every
Ab-
American history class.
Absolutely.
They are an amazing, it was an amazing movement and it still goes on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
Women, waged the war to try to get the vote starting in 1848
Oh,
yeah.
with the
that
first
long ago.
women's
I didn't
conference.
realize.
Yeah.
That's
In
Seneca Falls. Seneca
Seneca
Falls.
Falls,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
And
Huh.
it was a really nail biting, a movement that went back and forth,
Sure.
push forward, setbacks. They had to overcome the Civil War, World War One,
Wow.
and it's quite a fascinating movement. Um,
yeah,
and you're right about history going forward and then getting setbacks because I feel like we're in a setback time right now. And
Absolutely.
Operation Marriage, by the way, was on the banned book dadatabase. I found it. Somebody told me that.
Yes.
oh,
So
Yes.
I said, okay, I'm going to look it up. I finally had time. I was like, oh yeah, it's on a proposal to be banned in a county in Texas.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I didn't
I
know there was a database on that. Oh, wow. Okay.
There is a banned book database,
right.
and I was just curious. I'm like, I figure LGBTQ positive books are all
Oh yes. And
candidates for being banned, and Operation Marriage is on that list.
if the Double V campaign were noticed in those states, I'm sure it would be banned, but I don't think it's reached their vision. They don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I haven't looked up recently, though.
Is that part of the ALA? Is that an ALA project, the banned book thing, or no? The American Library
I
Association?
think it's independent.
Oh,
I
Yeah,
don't
I think
know
it's independent
who's
too.
doing it,
okay.
but yeah, someone's gathering the data and putting all the books and authors in the database to see where books are getting banned, what titles, what authors.
Oh,
I
it's
know that authors whose books get banned, they tend to be proud of it.
oh,
Yeah, it's a badge of courage.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a badge of something that was needed,
Hmm.
and the bad guys don't like it.
A book that got banned was Captain Underpants, which shocked me.
Oh, because it's underpants.
No,
Seriously, it's
I just
underwear.
when I found out about that, I was like, "What?"
I'm imagining that's why. I have no idea, but
Okay. Yeah, for you, why is it important to learn about these African Americans who fought in World War II?
oh, for me, I knew nothing about them. And
Oh,
I learned so much about all the segregation going on and then
yeah,
in the military was segregated.
yeah,
And there was so much information and I just got engrossed.
yeah,
And uh and it's funny, at one point I had written a proposal because for nonfiction, bigger books, you write a proposal. And I asked Betty Reed Soskin if she would look at it. And as I said to her, I want to make sure I'm covering in this book what you had in mind.
yeah.
And she said, sure. And she wrote back the next day and said, oh, Lee, this is terrific. She said, there's so much information. And the one thing I didn't see was about the Pullman porters smuggling the black newspapers into the South.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Oh.
And I said to her, I didn't come across that. I will add a chapter.
yeah, yeah.
And so I did. And a colleague of mine, I was telling him the book hadn't been published yet. I was telling him about that aspect of it. And he said, boy, that would be a good picture book. The Pullman porters smuggling the black papers.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
wrote it.
Oh,
And Abrams bought it.
yeah,
Congratulations.
Thank
yeah,
you. But they want a black illustrator, which of course I understand completely.
yeah.
And so the editor and I finished the writing part a couple of years ago, I think already.
Oh, you're just having a
And I
hard
got
time finding an
the
illustrator, or?
second, and he found an illustrator. The black illustrators are so busy.
Oh,
I mean, Evie Lewis wanted to illustrate it, but
yeah.
at the time he wasn't available till 2025. Turns out the one that he found to
Yeah.
do it wasn't available till 2025.
Oh,
So it's coming out in the fall of 2026.
yeah.
And
I'm wondering, for you both, is it important to do these stories because it's rights that we take for granted
yes,
could be lost
yes,
and stuff. This is what it was like before these people fought for those rights, and it's
right.
important
I
to.
wrote something about that because kids take things for granted. I
Yeah,
mean, like so many girls don't know really about the feminist movement. They
yeah,
don't know what rights had to be fought for.
yeah.
Hmm.
Well,
You
just the
know,
right
that
to have a credit card, right?
exactly. That's the kind of thing I was thinking of. It's
Yeah,
without your husband's name on it, I mean,
yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
One
I,
thing
I,
also I want to point out on the suffrage movement, it's the largest nonviolent movement to achieve the vote.
oh,
Yeah,
Ah,
when the amendment finally passed in 1920, half the country was now enfranchised. That's pretty
Yeah,
amazing. And there
it
was no
really is.
Yeah. Are
I
there
guess
less?
I knew more about the British suffragettes.
Oh,
the
That's
British
yeah,
pancreas.
suffragettes had a little more property violence, which the American
of
suffragists
course, of course
did
they
not
did.
want to do.
Yeah.
But the turning point for the movement is when the suffragists in the United States, when the women were picketing the White House and they were getting arrested and being thrown into a jail in Occoquan, Virginia. And
Mm.
Yeah.
some of the suffragists were jailed for up to 9 months in
Oh
really
my.
appalling conditions, rats, cockroaches, cold, and they went on a hunger strike. And so you probably have heard of the iron-jawed angels. So
Yeah.
No.
the wardens decided they would force feed the women. You see them being strapped down and the water put being, or the food
Oh,
being poured
Yeah.
through their mouth and their nose.
so that was in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was in the United
That was
States.
the
Yeah, it
Woodrow
happened in Britain
Wilson.
too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
that
remember.
people were so outraged after that, then the tide turned.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Shouldn't
then
have
Woodrow
taken
Wilson,
that.
the president, came forward and said, "Yeah, I support the suffrage amendment."
Yeah.
And
Isn't that?
now they're starting to say women shouldn't have the vote after all. Have you heard that?
No, I didn't
I've
hear
heard so
that.
many ridiculous things. It's
Hard to keep
very
track.
alarming.
It's hard to keep track.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah,
idea.
right.
They don't want you
Yeah.
to keep track.
Yeah. But do the people in your books give you hope because they face similar threats? I mean,
Mhm.
when I guess black soldiers had to face Jim Crow, right? Or
Mm,
women suffragists came at a time when sexism was pretty ingrained in America, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Welcome back to you both and stuff. And before we came back, Lea was talking about a talk she had at a school promoting her book Double V. If you want to talk about it now, feel free.
Yeah. Actually, the public library in Albany arranged it
Oh,
with I befriended the teen librarian there, and he got the books into the Alameda Library, yeah, Alameda County Libraries. Anyway, so I was invited to speak to all the eighth graders
oh,
in at Albany Middle School, and part of the reason is they're starting a month-long research project that they do at this school every year.
oh,
It just sounds fabulous. And
yeah,
so they wanted me to talk not just about the book, but about my research process.
yeah,
And I love talking about that. So that was good. Anyway, but it was 270 eighth graders sitting on bleachers in the gym on a rainy day.
yeah,
But I guess it worked. and
yeah,
it's over.
yeah. Well, what you're saying kind of leads to a question I had and stuff. Since you both are writers, what actually is your process when it comes to writing stories for children's books? And Lee, since you're also an illustrator, if you want to add your process for
Mhm.
creating illustrations for children's books, that'd be great too and stuff. But what is your process? I mean, you talked about research. Do you both do research, a lot of research on your books, and or well, let me be quiet and stuff. How do you do your books?
Well, first you have to sit down and write, which sometimes is a challenge for me because I would like to have fun just cooking and gardening and meeting with my friends. But yeah, I try to get myself to sit down after exercising. Exercising is also a challenge for me. After exercising, sit
Yeah.
down and write. And
Yeah.
and then I try to reward myself with something.
Uh,
And also library research, internet research is very important. One thing for my book, Amelia DeZora, there's not that many books on women, as you might have guessed. There are
yeah.
many more books on men by men, but not that many on women. And since my hometown is Washington, D.C., I actually went to the Library of Congress to do my research, and that
Oh
was
yeah.
fun.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
went there physically?
I was physically in Washington, D.C., yeah. Well, also it coincides with visiting my family.
Oh,
So
of course, but no, that's cool. That's
yeah, no, I
great.
physically go to the Library of Congress because they got all the books,
Yeah,
as many as you
Um,
can get and anywhere, any single place, but you have to wait because you have to go through their, card catalog, then request it. Then
yes.
they bring it to the main reference desk
Yeah.
and then you can use it. But
oh, that's
yeah,
wonderful.
research is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Lee, is it similar and stuff? Right. You
Yeah,
just have to
well,
go
the
sit
the
down and
few
write.
books that I've written that were published, um, I've been given the story.
Oh, okay.
The first one was about, it's called Ready to Fly. It's a picture book about a black girl. It's a true story about a black girl in Richmond during the 50s who wanted to be a ballerina, but
Oh,
ballet was for white girls.
yeah.
And she couldn't take lessons,
Oh,
even though her teacher was willing to pay for them. The ballet school said, if she's here, the others will all leave.
oh,
So this girl, and it's a true story, she didn't give up. A bookmobile came to town, to the neighborhood, and she talked to the librarian and got books on how to dance and
yeah.
taught herself how to do ballet. And
Wow.
she ended up teaching the neighborhood kids because they couldn't have lessons either,
Yeah.
and ended up getting discovered by a Russian ballerina who had opened a school and didn't have that particular prejudice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Is it?
so, anyway, but a friend of mine, a neighbor actually, was taking a tap
Yeah.
dance class from this woman who was now in her 70s and heard the story. And she came home and called me and said, Lee, I've got a picture book for you.
Yeah.
And that book, I must say, was published by HarperCollins.
Yeah.
And I had actually someone co-wrote it with me. Um, I did most of it, and then she sort of made it sing. But and then this double V book was also, the idea was given to me. And I've realized that I think I love telling stories, but I'm not great at thinking of them.
Oh,
And so
okay.
I've decided that nonfiction is probably, narrative nonfiction is where I'm happy.
Yeah. Is that the same with you, Cynthia? Do subjects just find you, I guess, or how do the various subjects pop up in your head? Is it something that appeals to, or is it somebody suggests?
Hard to say where the ideas come from. Sometimes they come just by reading other magazines and books, and then something comes up. Like the book that I wrote, A is for Asia,
Yeah.
came up because I was reading Publishers Weekly and I was reading about a book, A is for Africa. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh yes, that's a good book. But I said, being Asian American, I said, and having studied East Asian studies, I said, I could certainly write an alphabet book on Asia. And that's how that came up.
Yeah. 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 Do you both have critique groups, or are you basically?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
I have a monthly critique group.
Okay.
I have two actually. One of them is local, and ever since the pandemic started, we've been meeting online, even though we used to, and which works fine.
Yeah.
And uh, and then I'm in another one that I was at a an online conference for I forgot who, it must have been SCBWI, for nonfiction writers. And
Yeah.
at one point they had us go into breakout groups. They just sort of threw people in breakout rooms online.
Yeah.
And the six of us in this breakout room just hit it off and said, why don't we become a critique group? So we've never met each other in person because they were all over the country.
Wow.
And so it's only been online and it's been going on like 3 years and it's just terrific.
Wow. Wow.
So
Yeah. Has that been helpful for you too? For both of you, is the chemistry of the critique group what makes a critique group helpful, I guess?
I
you know,
think
like,
chemistry is really important,
Yeah.
but for me, the attitude that we're helping one another is the most important.
Yes. Yeah.
And these are all published writers with lots of skills, and they can give you good critique on your writing for sure. But also they have connections with editors and publishers. That helps.
You have a really good critique group.
yeah. Okay. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lea, for your illustrating, is it,
Mhm.
is there a particular process? I mean, you have to get reference photos, you have to do,
Oh yeah, for the I get the manuscript,
uh,
and usually it's not divided by into pages or anything
yeah,
for a picture book. And so the first thing I do is decide that I know that there are 32 pages in the usual picture book. There's a format,
yeah.
and so I decide where to make the page breaks. It's like
Oh,
a first crack at it.
yeah.
And am trying to make sure that the last line on a page makes the reader want to turn the page to see what happens next, which of course the author did too in the writing of it. And then working with the editor and art director and the publisher, but I do thumbnail sketches.
Yeah.
And because they're little, you can do lots, and oh, if that's not working, let's do another to
Yeah.
see what I basically envision on each page.
Yeah.
And there it's making sure that I'm using different angles and different perspectives and some close-ups, some farther away. So it's interesting. It's not like just talking heads or something.
Yeah.
I've learned all this through conferences and workshops.
Yeah.
And then I find models. And in Cynthia's case, she found them. It was wonderful. And I take pictures of I think that's one of the most fun parts
Uh,
is working with these kids and taking pictures. I have scenes in mind. And so I set up the scene in there and I take a lot of photos, but I also take a lot of photos of the kids interacting. And
yeah.
because sometimes you find a wonderful image
Yeah.
that wasn't in the scene. And I think I said that already. And then you put it together. And several of my books have taken place in schools.
Yeah.
And I use classrooms as models.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun. And, I had to get permission from the principal, and then they had to send, even though I wasn't publishing photos of the kids, because I was taking photos, they had to get permission from the parents and all this. And but they loved it. We had so much fun.
Yeah.
And at the one book, I remember I went back to show them the art.
Yeah.
I don't think the book was a book yet, but and I said to them, not all of you are in the book. And
Uh,
it's nothing personal. It's what images fit, with the words. And you'd all be terrific in the book. And, and so one kid raised his hand and said, we can all be in the credits.
yeah.
And I said, unfortunately, books don't have credits.
Oh,
Not the credits, what do they have at the end of movies?
Acknowledgement
yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Actually, it is credits, right? Is it end
yeah,
credits?
the
Yeah.
actors. And so I said, but I will dedicate, and I'm planning on dedicating this book to your class.
Oh, okay.
So that
That's cool.
that was okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
also this, living in the Bay Area where it's so diverse.
Yeah.
Um, this one school that I used uh, for a book, there were basically no Caucasians in the class.
Oh, okay.
And so, because we want all the states to get the book, and we want the white kids who were used to seeing themselves to see themselves, I
Yeah.
added some white kid. I added images of my daughters when they were young, you know. And so I explained that to the class. I said, you know, just like you want to see yourselves in the books, you know, everybody does, and they
Yeah.
usually do, but I want to make sure that they that it's in an all-inclusive.
Oh, that's
So
cool. That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, this
Can
sort
I
of,
say add something?
oh yeah,
So
sure.
for Operation Marriage, I'm in the book, and so is my son. And
Oh,
Yes,
my son said to
absolutely.
me that day that we did the photographs that Lee was taking, he said,
Yeah.
"That was the best day ever, Mom."
I it was wonderful. It just worked and everybody was happy and I remember, oh, I was going to tell the story of your cat. I took pictures of the cat who was wandering around during the day,
yeah, yeah.
and Cynthia assumed that the cat would be in the illustrations, but it wasn't. And
Oh,
so, but when you mentioned it to me, Cynthia, the thing was all illustrated. It wasn't sent to the publisher, but since they wanted digital, they were painted with paint, but since they wanted digital images to be sent rather than the original art,
yeah.
I was able to paint the cat and add it. So the cat, I can't remember now. I have to look if it's in one or
Did you
more images.
Photoshop it in or did you
Yeah,
Photoshop? Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that
Well,
was, I have so enjoyed all of this.
yeah.
This,
It sounds like for both of you, the process is what's fun. Even though
yeah.
I guess for Cynthia, getting started may not be easy,
Mm.
but once you're started, it becomes fun. Is that right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Okay.
also, I think selling the book is also the not so pleasant part, is trying to find a home for the books.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. This sort of leads to a question I have. Lee, you illustrated the book Say Something that deals with the
Yes.
subject of bullying. And Cynthia, in your website, it states that you want kids to grow up without being bullied for any reason. Um, why is bullying, uh, such a concern for you both?
Well, for me, when I was a kid, I was bullied.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not a lot compared to other kids,
Oops.
but being bullied, especially for being small or being Chinese or being the other, it always hurts.
Yeah.
It's an unpleasant experience that you don't want to have any person to go through.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important to stand up for the underdog and let kids be who they are
Yeah.
without fear of being bullied.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And I don't really, I mean, bullying wasn't the top of my concerns personally,
Mhm.
but the first book that I was asked to illustrate, that I was hired to illustrate,
Yeah.
was that Say Something about bullying.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was a wonderfully written book, um, and the publisher, a small publisher in Maine called Tilbury House. And when she read the short manuscript to me on the phone, and she said, you know, we're a very small publisher and we only publish a few children's books a year because the rest of their stuff is about Maine.
Yeah.
But they tend to win awards, she said. And they do.
Oh,
So I've illustrated 4 books with them through the years.
yeah.
And
Oh, that's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, it's great to do a book that wins awards, I guess. You know.
yes, and
Yeah.
sells well. I mean, that book, Say Something, it in the 15 years that it was really selling, it sold over 85,000 books.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty cool. That's
Yeah,
pretty
and I just found out this year that there's a book I illustrated about Ramadan, which was a learning curve and
yeah.
wonderful. It's probably the best written book that I've illustrated. It was just,
Yeah.
I've never illustrated my own writing,
Oh.
which is but because the books I've written have always been about African Americans.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so they want to, someone in the mix to be
Mhm.
which is, as I say, is totally fine with me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Layla's Lunchbox, I realized it was getting very popular. At bookstores were displaying it during Ramadan. And my last royalty report, that book has sold over 102,000 copies,
Wow.
which
That's pretty cool.
totally blows my mind. And it's really neat.
Oh.
And I think I'm going to mention this anyway, but I think it's really cool that a Jewish woman illustrated that book
Yeah, it's cool.
because of all the tension.
Yeah.
And I said that to, I haven't met the author, but we finally communicated on by phone during the thing. I had a few questions for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a true story of hers. So anyway, and so I mentioned that to her at one point, and she said, "Oh, can I use that in my school visits?" I said, "Please,
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
please
that's
do."
cool.
So
That's cool. That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, my next question is a little political, so I hope you guys don't mind. But, it's sort of a two-part question and stuff. I guess the first part, um, what are your th because you do both do books about diversity. What are your thoughts on Donald Trump's attacks on DEI programs and on book bans in the more conservative parts of the country? But the second part is why should your books be read by children in red states as well as blue states? So I don't know who wants to go first in this, but oh, should I pick?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I will volunteer, I'm not happy about the tax on DEI. Um, do people even know what DEI stands for? Diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion. So maybe we need to just spell it out and stop using an abbreviation. And
Yeah,
then if you really, it's hard for me to believe that people would be against diversity,
yeah,
equity, and
Yeah,
inclusion.
I
Just
know.
have to say the whole thing out loud. And actually, red states are quite diverse.
yeah,
Even though you may think they're red, but they're quite
Ah,
diverse too. And I think kids need to see themselves and their communities reflected in books.
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Otherwise, it's a fairyland. So,
And
Well,
they have to learn about social issues
mhm.
because they may not be getting it from anywhere else. I have obviously a bias against red states, which is not fair
yeah,
because they're full of lots of people. But I find this horrifying. I mean, everything that's going on with
Mhm.
Trump is horrifying, but he's blaming everything on DEI, from the LA fires to the plane crash.
Plane crash,
And
yes.
yeah,
he's not defining it appropriately.
yeah,
He's misleading about what it is and what the policies are and why it was there.
yeah,
And I just think it's horrifying.
yeah, yeah. You mentioned Operation Marriage being affected by book bans, right? It's part of that book ban.
Yeah, it's in the banned book database.
And both of your books, deal with diversity. I mean, I would assume that this would have some effect on both of your books and stuff.
Yeah,
But
well, and the Double V campaign is Black history, which they're not allowing in many schools in these some of these states.
yeah, yeah,
They don't want the white kids to feel bad. I'm
yeah,
being facetious, but that's what they say.
yeah,
They
yeah,
don't want them to know about the ugly past of this country with slavery and stuff because the kids will feel bad. I've heard that. It maybe one person said it, but
yeah. Is
you
part
can
of it?
also cut this out if I'm getting too.
Oh, no, 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 no. I think what you're saying, because I mostly do talks with political
Oh,
cartoonists
right,
and
of
stuff.
course.
That's what you're saying is actually kind of mild
Yeah,
compared to something
yeah,
that they'd say. But I
indeed.
think for me, my worry is that history, if you don't learn from the dark side of history, you're vulnerable to repeating it and stuff. And
Yes.
as a Filipino American cartoonist,
Mm.
I saw that firsthand 2 years ago when Ferdinand Marcos's son got elected
Oh,
president of the Philippines because a younger generation of Filipinos, a large percentage of people in the Philippines are under 30, and they were never properly taught how bad martial law was in the Philippines. And so the Marcos family had a disinformation campaign on social media that made the martial law
oh,
period seem like a golden age.
oh my
So,
God.
so like when I think both of your what you're do the books that you produce are very important because they emphasize the importance of history and how we can progress. We have a potential to be a better country, and
Mhm.
the particular examples you gave are people who fought to make this a better country and stuff. And if you
Mhm.
forget that, we're not, usually I think progress is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But my
Yeah.
worry is that it's 2 steps forward, and now Trump is putting like 5 or 6 steps back and stuff.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I laugh, but I'm actually kind of scared.
Yeah, it's if you don't laugh, you cry.
Yeah,
Right, exactly.
yeah,
Also, you can't understand why today is the way it is unless
Oh,
you read
absolutely.
history, right?
Yeah,
You don't understand how all these injustices could
yeah,
be possible unless you understand what's happened before.
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you
And
for doing your books and stuff.
yeah.
So
I
I keep.
also have a book that I illustrated about the Holocaust.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
And
yeah.
I started out co-writing it with the author because she wanted to use my illustrations, but the editor chooses the illustrators. So I
Oh,
said to her, but if we co-write it, then at least we look professional if we send my illustrations. They don't have to use them, but
I didn't know that that's how it worked.
yes, yes. Well, the first thing you look, so if you're writing a book and you want to get a publisher, don't have a friend illustrated
Uh-huh.
because they want to choose their own illustrators,
Oh,
the
okay,
publishers.
okay, okay. Okay. Did you have anything else to say? I'm going to go to the last question, if you don't. Or
Trying to think.
yeah, yeah. If not and stuff, I can go to the last question and stuff.
Yeah.
I was also
Um.
going to show the covers of the books we talked
Oh,
about.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead and do that. Yeah. Lee, do
Yeah.
you have your books too? You can show if you have a book up
Oh,
there. Yeah.
yeah, I have it right here. I have
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, cool. Cool.
it. Oops, it's got these in it, but
No. Yeah.
I love the way they did the cover.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
In the gallery I created, I think I have some of your book covers in that gallery.
oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Thank you for doing that.
Oh, yeah, sure, sure. And I also in the description, I think I put both of your websites so that people want to learn
oh,
more about you
great.
both. They can always look it up and stuff. So,
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, this
okay.
is terrific. So what's the last question?
Okay. The last question, which in about, I think this talk will be over in 10 minutes, but the last question is just, what are some organizations and groups that helped you both with the children's book field? And what advice would you give to a prospective writer, children's book writer or children's book illustrator?
I can't say enough about SCBWI, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. Um, it's just a wonderful organization that has so many opportunities to learn.
Yeah.
As the regional groups, it's divided into many regional groups, and
Yeah.
they have local
Yeah.
events. And it's I got very involved in it, but I really I think it's the first thing to check out for a prospective writer
Yeah.
is that organization. And the other thing, and we've talked about it a bit, critique groups.
Yeah.
Critique groups are so important.
Yeah.
because um, because you don't want just your opinion, And these are writers, not always published yet, but writers and readers,
Yeah.
and you're critiquing each other's. And so, you learn how to sandwich anything that, you say the positive stuff and then, I wonder if this would make it a little better here, or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so that's been great.
How about you, Cynthia?
Yeah, I would say the same thing about the SCBWI and the critique group. And I would also say that writers can and illustrators can do a lot of research now online, which is fairly easy. In the old days, when we didn't have the internet, actually doing a lot of the research on the publishers was much more time consuming. It's still very time consuming and a tedious process to learn about the publishers and the agents. And
Yeah.
there's also a new route that people are taking advantage of, and that's self-publishing. So that's an exciting
Yeah.
Yes.
newer development.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
It's
With self.
not, it's no longer called vanity press.
Oh.
It used to
Was
be thought of as that.
Yeah. With self-publishing is the issue then with that. It's not just but distribution, I guess, because you're gonna have to figure out how to bring it to bookstores. You're gonna have to figure out, I guess.
Yes.
I think that's always been the advantage of publishers, right? Is that they already have distributors, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it's also self-funding. You have to bring
Yes.
money to be able to help develop the book. So not everybody has that disposable income to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
I have been lucky to get an agent. The first 6 books I think that I illustrated were not agented, or maybe just 4, whatever. But um, and so that makes life easier.
did you find an agent through SCBWI or was it
Yeah.
just that? Oh, okay.
Interestingly, when I did these illustrator days, this conference, part of the day is portfolio critiques, but also a portfolio display.
Yeah.
And, everybody got to see your work. But I usually had 2 or 3 speakers, and that wasn't enough to do the critiques. Because
Yeah.
there's the last one I had, there were 90 people there. Um,
Okay.
which is, yeah. Um, so I invited other people in local publishers.
Yeah.
So my agent, Abigail Simone, was at Tricycle Press, and she was the closest thing they had to an art director. So
Yeah.
I invited her to come, and several other small publishers that aren't even here anymore. Um,
Yeah.
and so I got to meet those people, and everybody got to meet them. You
Yeah.
know, so and then Abby became an agent, and actually the Holocaust book was the first book she represented me,
Yeah.
and she saw some of the artwork I had done for it
Okay.
at somewhere, and she said, Lee, if this becomes a book, let me know.
Ah,
And
that's
so,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Cynthia, do you have an agent too, or?
I don't have an agent now. I have had an agent in the past.
Oh, okay. Okay. How did you find that agent? Was it just as you built up, uh, you know, um, uh, a batch of books that you did and stuff that an agent noticed, or did you go looking for an agent?
I went looking for an agent. And also SCBWI helps, because they often have agents at conferences. So
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's cool. Okay. Well, thank you both very, very much for our talk. We came in under, we still have 4 minutes left. So do you have anything else to say or in 4 minutes or, we can always end it now and stuff.
Well,
But
I want to thank you. This has been great.
oh yeah, yeah. I think for me, I'm a nerd, so nerds. As a nerdy guy, I always find it thrilling to meet cartoonists, illustrators, writers. I'm a big fan of talking to creatives because I can learn from all of you, the craft, the business aspects, you know, I find I think with me and stuff, I just love listening to the creative process and just listening to artists and writers and stuff. That's
Yeah.
because they're very interesting people. You both are very interesting. So yeah.
Thank you. Well, you are too.
No, okay. Well, okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're
Thank you, Angelo. Thanks, Lee.